Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming, and thanks for coming for this late workshop. Everybody hears me? Back there, everything okay? So we'll talk today a little bit about the finance, but mostly about the Bitcoin. But it's not gonna be too technical. I'll mention some of the concepts some of you probably know already. For those that haven't heard about that, I'll explain the basic concepts. For those who stayed on, who have been on the Lugano presentation, some of the concepts have been already mentioned there, like PSBTs. We'll use very similar Bitcoin backtech. Let me start with something. Okay, maybe I'll mention the highlight of the presentation already now, and the highlight is that we have free books. So after the presentation is over, or if somebody wants to take a book now, feel free to go. It's a book about Bitcoin used as collateral, and we are arguing that Bitcoin is the ultimate form of collateral. We published the book just recently with our friends from... go ahead.
There's only 20 left, quickly.
It's only 21.
Exactly. So 19 left or something.
Let's game theory.
Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. And when I say us, I mean Firefish.io. We are a Prague-based Bitcoin startup and a Bitcoin-backed lending company. We use Bitcoin escrow, multisig-based escrow system in production in our platform. So I will also mention that as one of the examples how Bitcoin native tools can be used to create trust minimized or support trust minimized transaction also in the real world. So basically, if you know what Bitcoin is, what input and output is, and what a Bitcoin transaction is, then we are good to go. And let's start. I'll start with something maybe too simple, and maybe I'll start with notion of transaction. What is transaction? Probably everybody knows. It's just like I give you something, you give me something. For example, you buy a laptop online, or you lend some money to your friend. But here is the tricky part. What if your friend just forgets to pay you back? Like, this is what we call a counterparty risk in finance, and I think it's pretty important notion for those who haven't heard it. I think that's something that is really interesting to think about human interactions in the also using this notion in your mind. Maybe imagine just two scenarios. You are lending money to a Bitcoiner friend from the local startup, somebody really trustworthy, and second scenario is like you are lending money to a person that you met on the internet. You probably feel the difference between those two scenarios, and the difference is actually the essence of counterparty risk. There are some cool tools that I haven't invented, that are in production for a couple of hundreds of years already in the traditional finance. One of them is called escrow. The concept is really simple. It just means, bro, don't trust me. Let's find a middleman that we both trust, and he will help us to mitigate the risk that we are both facing. Maybe let me show you an example. Imagine you are buying a house. In this scenario, like you could theoretically transfer the money to the seller, but what if they don't hold up to their end of the transaction? And usually, what we do in a traditional finance, we use somebody like an escrow agent. So flow would work as follows. You would just transfer money to the bank that holds the funds until the property title is transferred to you, and only after that release the funds. As you might notice, this is basically reducing counterparty risk towards the seller, but still you are exposed towards the bank. So if you are hoping that the bank is gonna do their business right, they could theoretically like run away with your money. So it's very important to understand who the escrow agent is, because you are fully exposed to the counterparty risk towards the escrow agent. we, I think, could do much better using Bitcoin, as in many other fronts, like payments can be better, like a lot of stuff can be better using Bitcoin, and also these kind of transactions can be better when using Bitcoin. You have actually two options to use Bitcoin in a context of escrow. One is pretty much legacy version of it. So basically, instead of money, you would transfer your Bitcoin to the centralized escrow agent, like a custodian. So you would just use a different asset. Still, you would need to trust the underlying entity, the escrow agent, to not steal your Bitcoin, on basically to hold up to their end of the transaction. But I think we, due to some Bitcoin native technology we have to our disposal, and the fact that Bitcoin is programmable to some extent, I think we can do much better. And this is where some of the tools that we have in the Bitcoin toolkit comes to the play. Probably everybody heard about, or most of you, or maybe let me ask you, like, how many of you have heard about or are using or are somehow connected to Multisig, like this kind of thing? Oh, so pretty much everybody. Cool. So I'll just run through it because probably it doesn't need so much of the explanation. Multisig is basically what it sounds like. It's like multiple. You need to have multiple signatures to move the Bitcoin, to release the Bitcoin from an address or a UTXO. So basically, in like some analogy from the physical world, would be that you rent a safety deposit box with like two of your friends, and at least two of you need to show up at to unlock the box. So a little bit clunky analogy, but I think it serves the purpose for the illustration. Once we have actually Bitcoin, Multisig is pretty simple but very powerful tool in many scenarios, including custody and but also like these financial transactions and in the escrow context. So let me show you another basic example how Multisig can be used in the context of escrow. Imagine a Bitcoin-backed lending transaction. That means that a lender is willing to lend money to the borrower, and to make the transaction safer for both of them, they decide to use Bitcoin as collateral. That means that if borrower doesn't fulfill their obligation at the maturity, he doesn't repay, the Bitcoin would be released to the lender as a remedy. In this case, instead of a centralized custodian, we could use 2 of 3 Multisig. So not the institution, just the opcode. In this scenario, the borrower would lock the Bitcoin in this Multisig address. There would be 3 keys, out of which 2 need to be used to release the collateral. So one would be held by borrower, another by lender, and third by escrow agent. And in this context, you would see like a cooperative scenario to resolve or move the Bitcoin. It would be like, bro, I just repaid the loan. Please sign this transaction that I proposed that is returning Bitcoin to me. And the lender would most probably sign off on it. If not, probably the escrow agent would jump in and resolve the solution. So in this case, they would just provide a second signature to the transaction that returns the collateral back to the borrower in case of the repayment. This seems quite simple, but it's super powerful. It reduces a risk a lot. Like, escrow agent cannot just run away with the funds. I think it's pretty cool. This kind of or similar setups are already used in production with some of the non-custodial Bitcoin-backed lending companies out there. Yeah, and as I said, I think it's very, very useful and powerful. Maybe let's step a little bit up, and I'll show you the more complex example of a Bitcoin escrow setup or construction that actually we use in production at Firefish, or some modification of it, like a little bit simplified modification of it. But before that, I would like to introduce those who don't know to two more tools we have in a Bitcoin toolkit that allows us to provide more functionality to these kind of contracts. And even I would say that those contracts can resemble the smart contracts in a way. So if somebody tells you there are no smart contracts on Bitcoin, I think it's not completely true. And you can create constructions that are smart contract-like. So these powerful tools I have in mind, first of them is PSBT. It stands for partially signed Bitcoin transaction. It means a transaction that is kept off-chain. And imagine a multisig transaction that unlocks some UTXO, transfer it to some other place, and it's not fully signed by everybody. So the transaction is not valid at that point. So it's kept off-chain somewhere at somebody's location. And to finalize the transaction, you just need to, somebody needs to add the missing signature and broadcast the transaction to the network. I will show you how you can do a really cool stuff with that later on. But another concept that I need you to understand is time lock. It was mentioned during the Liana workshop, so probably you heard about that. Again, it's what it sounds like. It lets you lock the output of a transaction or transaction itself to a specific time, point in the time in the future, like a specific block height. There are different kind of time locks. I will not go to the technical complications at this point. I think this is all you need to know. And let me just show you the example, like how we at Firefish are thinking about escrow, how we created a little bit more complex, but I think powerful escrow solution based on these two technology pieces. And yeah, so as I mentioned, like we are trying to think about escrow as a form of smart contract, as a small program that kind of, you agree on rules with your counterparties, you define the states in which the contract can happen to be, or the events that can happen during the lifetime of the loan, and then you just use the Bitcoin to enforce those rules. So let me start with the actors, like who are the players that play the game. And I will just repeat that we are talking about context of Bitcoin-backed lending. So you have a borrower that wants to receive, be it fiat currency or stable coins or whatnot, as a loan. You have a lender that wants to fund this kind of loan. You have an escrow contract. Let's generalize it at this moment. And we added just one more actor to the game. We added somebody that we call liquidator. Imagine this is an entity or person, whoever, who is able to sell the Bitcoin collateral whenever it's needed for whatever the underlying of the loan is, if it is the fiat currency or the stable coins, or it could be gold in the end, whatever. And we decided also to add another actor to the game, and we call the actor Oracle. If you think about escrow as a smart contract, you would soon recognize, and I will show you in a minute, that there are a couple, like some kind of data you need to have. The contract needs to have some kind of data to resolve, like where it goes. What does happen with the Bitcoin in that escrow contract? And these are pretty much the possible ways. On the event side, you see all possible states in which the escrow contract can actually happen to be, or in the simplified version. Refund is a state where borrower locks the Bitcoin collateral but still didn't receive any loan. Like something happened in the very beginning of the loan and the loan didn't materialize. So what we ask, like what kind of data you need to trigger this event? And it's payment data. You need to somehow have access to the payment system and attest to the fact whether the payment did or didn't happen. And in this case, if the event is triggered, the Bitcoin should go to the borrower. And we can go on and on. Repayment is a state in which borrower receive the funds, and at the maturity, they just repay their loan. The happy scenario, everybody is happy. So we just need to have some payment data that triggers the fact that the Bitcoin is transferred back to the borrower. Default is a kind of unhappy scenario, at least for the borrower. They, for some reason, didn't repay their loan, and we are again attesting by the payment data, and Bitcoin goes to the liquidator. And there is one more event, it's called liquidation. It means that the Bitcoin price drops in value to the extent that collateral is not sufficient to support the loan itself. And in this case, again, Bitcoin goes to liquidator, but the event is triggered by payment data only. We don't need to have any information from the payment system. We just need to have the price data, like the price of Bitcoin. And okay, now we know all the players, everybody that is involved. We know all the states in which the contract should be. And now, how do we create the contract itself? Like, how do we enforce the execution of such a contract? And what we do is that we lock the output, the collateral itself, in a 3-of-3 multisig, where one of the key is held by borrower, second key is held by price oracle. In the end, we use 2 oracles because we want to separate like the price data and the payment data, and let the 3 of them have a key to the multisig. At the same time, we create a bunch of pre-signed Bitcoin transactions that represent the states that I mentioned before. Maybe you mentioned there is less states in less transaction than the states, because we just merged 2 of them that both attesting to the same thing, and still the Bitcoin goes to the same destination. So we don't need to do the same, like 2 same transactions. So there is 1 transaction missing in this case. And what we do, we pre-sign these transactions, and there is still just 1 signature missing. And the missing signature means it's from an oracle that needs to attest to that particular event. So in terms of repayment, payment oracle signature is missing. That means that if the payment event happens, payment oracle just adds signature to these pre-signed transactions, to that particular transaction, and triggers the event. Yeah, I would just mention that B belongs to the you can see the like schema of transactions. You have input and output of transaction. You can see that output always belong either to the borrower. So from the escrow contract, the Bitcoin can go only to the borrower or to the liquidator. This is very nice because you pretty much, like, if you lock as a borrower Bitcoin in this kind of construction, you pretty much know that it can only end up at your own address or on the liquidation address, nowhere else. So we created something like a finite set of the possible outcomes that can happen during the lifetime of the loan. What was not possible in the more simplified 2-of-3 multisig scenario. Maybe you would question one thing, and that's like, why should I fund like some funky 3-of-3 multisig when I need cooperation of somebody else that will send me my that like can spend the Bitcoin? What if they don't cooperate at all? So what we decided to do, we decided to add 1 more transaction pre-signed that got all the signatures on it already, but it's time locked. What it means that before you fund the escrow address, you already know that even if oracles don't cooperate at all, like there is a zombie apocalypse or something of this kind, you can still spend your Bitcoin without any interaction with anybody later on, after some time lock. Time lock is set to be maturity of the loan plus some buffer, like 1 month or something. So worst thing that can happen to you is that you will be waiting to be able to spend your Bitcoin collateral if the Oracle infrastructure doesn't work, or if we go to jail. Okay, there are maybe couple of more improvements we did, but I don't know if you want to go deeper into the technical things or not. Just yes, yes. Okay, okay. What we realized is that it's not gonna be in a practical world. This is gonna be quite a complex thing to create upfront, because what we want as a borrower who funds these transactions, you want all these transactions to be prepared before you do any action, because you want to be sure that if something happens, I can still spend my Bitcoin. You want to see the TX recover, this recovered transaction upfront. But what are the limitations? You need to know the outputs you are referring to in a Bitcoin transaction to be able to construct it. So to be able to create TX transaction, probably the inputs would be multiple UTXOs of the borrower. We would either need to interact with the Bitcoin wallets that allow for some kind of coin control, or we would need to know XPub of that particular wallet. What I think it's not very practical. And we wanted to make sure that users of different kind of infrastructure can still use the contract. So what we did as a hack is to create a UTXO consolidation transaction before that. So in the end, the interaction for generic use case would be that borrower would be sending their UTXOs to another multisig based construction. In this case, it's gonna be 3 of 3 multisig, or borrower plus some very short time lock. That would mean that once you lock the Bitcoin out there, you would either use the 3 of 3 multisig path. Oracles would only sign when they see that you are doing this kind of construction after that. And if something goes wrong, you still can spend it after some short time log, 2 weeks. Well, I think it's relatively cool. What it allows us that we pretty much know at that point, we know the UTXOs we will be spending in the TX escrow. So we pay one on-chain transaction extra, but I think this is the price to pay for be very generic. You can use whatever infrastructure as you please, and you just send the Bitcoin to a specific address. So the interaction with the protocol became much more simple. Also, I would mention that in the production, we use something that is called ephemeral keys. In the 3 of 3 multisig, you actually don't need to have the key of your hardware wallet. You are okay to have some key that you know at that specific point in time to make sure that you only sign this for transaction and you can throw it away. Even our application that is running this protocol is just creating an ad hoc ephemeral key, and then after the procedure is done, we just throw it away. By that, you also make the interaction much more simple. You don't need to communicate with hardware wallets and integrate them one by one, and still security is the same, because it's not a key where you will receive your Bitcoin. The B key that you see on the very right is your key from your hardware wallet. You should not use ephemeral key for that thing. So basically, the interaction in the end is super easy. This is the same thing. Also, you can put a time lock on the default. This is what all it says. And I will just mention some of the benefits of this approach, because you might ask, 2 of 3 multisig is cool, and I think it's cool. And why do you do this more complex solution, and what does it really bring? And we think it brings lot of nice features. One of them is deterministic nature of the escrow. You know the finite set of the outcomes that can happen during the lifetime of the loan. Even if there is coercion from law enforcement or whoever, nobody can spend the Bitcoin otherwise than to the borrower's own address or to the liquidator's address. In this In this protocol, lenders do not even need to hold the private keys. And I think this is a big benefit in a world where we are settling loans denominated in fiat currency. Maybe the time will come, but at this moment, it's very hard to imagine like banks that operate hardware wallets on their side, or cosign some multisigs. This makes the things much more simple. And another would be like no interaction is needed after the contract setup. As you have seen, you pretty much do like ceremony, the procedure. As a borrower, you create this construction on your side, and then you don't need to interact with the system in any way. So you don't need to co-sign when some event happens, because it doesn't really depend on you. It depends on the price data, and it depends on the payment data. So again, it's making the flow much more smooth. And also, like, we don't need to create some additional infrastructure. If you use some M of N multisig, you probably need to have some wallet that can co-sign transactions and whatnot. Like, not everybody has it. In this case, you are good to go if you can send a transaction to a taproot address. That's it. Not everybody, not all pieces of infrastructure, unfortunately, at this point are able to interact with taproot addresses, but that's another story. And yeah, that's it from the. I hope it was not too technical, and just curious about your questions.
So you have price oracles, though, that you need to trust for the deterministic thing to work, right?
Yes.
Where are those coming from? What are you? How do you secure? And then in that context, also, what do you do when there's a flash crash?
I wanted to talk more in theoretical terms. We kept the concept very generic, but if you are asking about actual implementation at this point, like, both of these oracles are implemented on our side. Like, Firefish is the oracle in our particular case. For the lack of the better options, if there are like Bitcoin native oracles somewhere out there, like, we are happy to talk to people who work on them, because there are like more companies that need like Bitcoin oracles. Because in Oracle world, in the Bitcoin world, oracles work in a very different way than you might recall from the Ethereum or these kind of systems, and it needs like specific approach. So far, we didn't find any external provider, but we don't think it's actually such a big problem, because what we can do, we cannot steal the funds. Even if like we have a competency of those two keys, we still can only send Bitcoin one way or another. There is a place for improvement. I hope we will be able to decentralize the Oracle feed and push it ideally to the third party. I don't want to do it myself. So sooner or later it will probably happen, but not at this time.
I just want to go back to the example of a flash crash. Let's say that would trigger a payout possibly to the lender, right?
Yeah. This is something like pretty much all services that do some of margining are facing. You don't want to be triggered to happen in times when the Bitcoin price is clearly not there. This is why we use not a single source of truth as like one exchange, but rather some median of exchange prices, and it's kind of engineered in a way that it doesn't post false liquidation signals. In the payment oracle is very hard to decentralize in a way. If you are using stablecoins, there are a lot of ways. Like, you can do atomic swaps instead, and there are some cool ways. But if you are using like legacy payment systems, it's hard. So we most probably will keep it on our side for the lack of the better options. Like, we treat this as a theoretical concept. I think it's a like nice framework how to think about lending and finance and escrow, and we can improve on all these concepts over time.
Okay, thank you. Could you elaborate a bit more on the performance and fee side? So where is your performance calculated for the lender, and on the fee side, both for borrower and lender? Thanks.
Yeah, okay, so few words about Firefish. This is like the under the hoods. This is the basic protocol we use to operate. around this protocol, we created the Bitcoin-backed lending marketplace. So as you have seen, the protocol is designed in the context of peer-to-peer lending. You have like borrowers and the lenders, and there is oracles, that is currently us, that have some like can attest to particular events. So what we did, we created a marketplace where borrowers can ask for a loan, and we are connecting them with the lenders who are happy to fund those loans and receive the interest. We are not setting interest rates ourselves. So it's basically a marketplace. So currently the rates are going high because borrowers are in high demand for the government shitcoins, as known as banking money. So and everybody kind of is riding the way where it really makes sense to be short fiat currency, because this actually lets you benefit on the fact that fiat currency, such as euros, is decreasing in value over time. So it's a very powerful tool for Bitcoiners. We are also, so did I answer your question or?
Almost. The fee side was still, was it 1.5 for something?
Yeah, we are charging like 150 basis points. So in a 1-year contract, it's 1.5% to your rate. So if you agree on a 10% rate with your lender, with your investor, we charge 1.5% more.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Following up on the previous gentleman's topic regarding flash crashes and potential, market events, wondering if there's potential aspects in your roadmap to build additional security-conscious products where you might be able to potentially hedge your position in the event of an adverse market scenario. I'm used to saying this as a user of your product. I've successfully, dare I say, taken out a test loan earlier, and I got repaid earlier this week. So very happy to see the marketplace working very well. But I noticed, I had a certain, there was a liquidation price of I think 32,000 euros or something like that. It's very, very far away, obviously, from where we are. But in the event that something were to happen, could I perhaps use a protective derivative product like an option, possibly maybe in a future rollout of your?
You could indeed,
yes.
like in the traditional finance, what you would do in a traditional finance, you would basically create a derivative-based strategy to hedge the risk, the exposure. Like these kind of things are in production for since 70s. It's nothing new. So pretty much you would need to buy some downside protection. That means put options or some either plain vanilla puts or some maybe more exotic puts. But this is definitely engineerable. The only question stays, however, how to make this kind of construction as trustless as possible. And I think it's not so easy to crack. But this is something we are actually working on at this very moment. We are thinking how to bring the downside protection to the on-chain world. Because creating stuff on-chain comes with a very tangible benefits, but also with some limitations. As you have seen in the simple scenario, we really make a deterministic output of the escrow. You pretty much know all the states that can happen. But how about the scenario where you, for example, want to withdraw excess collateral? In this construction, you would not be able to. Bitcoin goes to moon, and wow, I have a lot of Bitcoin for a small loan, and with this protocol, you still cannot withdraw the excess collateral. There are ways how we could do it. So there are ways how to improve the thing. I just wanted to illustrate that to make things really safe and on-chain comes with some particular challenges as well.
Great, thank you very much.
Excuse me, does it require KYC?
Sorry, man.
At this moment, how we placed it into the production is that we created marketplace in EU, so we can only at this moment serve European customers with KYC. At the same time, we are working on some more offshore solution that would maybe don't require KYC, but this is not clear yet. You would not believe how hard it is to create anything, any financial service or something that resembles financial service in Europe. How regulatory heavy it is. So yes, we unfortunately require KYC. Or somebody likes it, somebody not. I don't want to push my opinions on that, but answer is clear, like yes.
Competitors don't use it. There is a, I'm sorry. There is some competitors that allow permit to use a service like this without KYC. I don't know how can they do it in Europe.
Well, I cannot, I don't fully understand their how they frame it, but what I would guess is that they operate the platform from outside of the Europe, from some offshore jurisdiction.
Thank you.
But if you do this kind of stuff, then you have a problem that maybe it's not a good fit for more traditional investors to the platform. So those are like a trade-offs. Like you can make it more like friendly for Bitcoiners by incorporating offshore and maybe forgetting about KYC and whatnot. But then you will have a real challenge to bring institutional liquidity on the platform.
Thank you. I actually got two questions. Sorry if you just said it already, but I was just able to jump in the last moments. First of all, I wonder if you may tell us like the medium average of the interest yields, and sorry, and if you showed it already. And the second of all, what is exactly, I mean, who is exactly your lenders? I mean, what kind of lenders do you guys have? It's like traditional finance or like banking, exchange, crypto space, extra crypto space? Thank you.
I will start from the end, at this moment, like we started recently. It's like the open version of the platform is like 6 months old. We started in April, I guess, and we are now scaling around Europe. So at this moment, most of our both borrowers and lenders are actually Bitcoiners like you and me, and bunch of like small companies. We are currently onboarding a couple of more traditional players on the investment side. What we are like pretty excited about, because I hope that will just bring the rates lower. Like my goal is to bring like as cheap as possible Bitcoin-backed lending options to the Bitcoin community. This is where I'm coming from. So we are excited. We are able to attract even more traditional players. But at this moment, if you sign up for Firefish and you request loan, with a 99% chance you will get matched with a fellow Bitcoiner somewhere in Europe. What is also cool.
And mainly banks, or these traditional guys that you say you're gonna jump in? So like banks, hedge funds, or what kind of type of, especially for the operators that are outside the crypto space? I'm just curious what kind of, because like there's a lot of liquidity outside the crypto space for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But
like we are talking even to traditional banks. We are talking to like a private credit funds, like all different kinds of funds with the different mandates. Like these are the most people that basically underlying thing is a credit, is a fixed yield credit. So it's not something like very esoteric. What we are saying is that, look, we have created an asset, like asset-backed credit, that is really close to what you guys are already doing. Like a lot of people out there are providing credit backed by some kind of collateral. And this is just it, just the collateral is the best collateral in the world. So even better. So it's not so esoteric thing for the financial institution anymore. And the space is moving surprisingly fast. When we started talking about this like 2 years ago, like we knocked on a few doors and it was not a success. Like everybody was like, there is some Bitcoin and multisig, nobody understood where the Bitcoin sits. And I was like, in Bitcoin world, it doesn't need to sit at a place, you need to have some imagination, and it was hard, but it's changing a lot. And all these TradFi folks, they are learning slowly but surely. So I guess the future is not so far that we will see like reasonably priced Bitcoin-backed loans out there. And I forgot one thing. What are the rates at this moment?
I thought you don't want to say so.
No. Happy to share. At this moment, like euros are priced around 11-12% PA. We also operate Czech crowns. We are from Prague, so we need to serve the local people. And then the rates are around 10.
I see.
What kind
Thank
of
you.
collateral you need to post for 10% rate?
It's 50% LTV. Like, we thought this is like a kind of industry standard. We didn't want to make it a messy marketplace, so this is kind of fixed. That the minimal amount of Bitcoin you need to post is like 2 times more than the loan you want to. But you can always post more. More is no problem. Less is a problem. Yeah.
How do you plan the development of your company in your future, and when will you be available in Switzerland?
We are at this moment actually happy to serve Swiss customers. So it's like EU, Switzerland, and UK customers that we can serve at this very moment. So if you have a bank account in Switzerland, we are happy to serve you as both a borrower or investor.
Previously, you were explaining European user. So do you mean the location of the user, living location must be in EU, or the bank account must be European?
We need actually both. We need some of your ID card that comes from these countries, EU, Switzerland, or UK, and you have a banking account in some of these 3 countries.
Thank you.
Don't ask me why. I'll connect you with with our lawyer that is in charge of the KYC and stuff. I want to be as far as possible from that.
So apart from Bitcoin, do you accept any other collateral?
No, as you have seen, like our technology is really using Bitcoin native tools. Like this stuff doesn't exist in other blockchains. And look, we want to serve Bitcoiners. We don't have any plans to expand any further. We would need to use different technology. And why? I think this is a cool technology. Bitcoin is pretty good for this use case.
Are you already feeling some pressure on these rates? They seem to be extremely expensive.
Sorry, once again?
The interest rate is extremely expensive.
It's expensive, but
Must be a niche product.
and like there is still demand for that. So many Bitcoiners don't have access to the traditional credit to the same extent as like other people might have. And I would turn it around. This is good opportunity for the investors because you could have bank deposits yielding 2% now in Europe, and on Firefish you can get 12. With Bitcoin as collateral. So I think it's no-brainer. What is good for one is disadvantage
Yes,
for another.
That side is
But-
that side is good.
Yeah.
I was just if one wants to buy a boat on a credit, it would be approximately 10-12% interest rate, and the boat is a collateral. I would say boat sinking is a bigger risk than Bitcoin.
Oh yeah,
Really?
I'm with
So
you.
the Bitcoin loan should be cheaper.
I'm with you. I think the rates should be
1.5%
much lower.
for the transaction fee. That also seems very generous. I will expect within a couple of years there will be lots
Oh yeah.
of companies
The-
there, and so early bird gets the worm, whatever the expression is.
Yeah. We need to finance our operation. It's not easy. Like it looks simple, but it's not so easy to create this kind of product into the production. Maybe I would mention one more thing. But I'm really proud that we are doing it like this. That you as a borrower are actually creating all these constructs on your side. Basically, it's a small program in your web browser, in the WebAssembly compartment of your browser that runs our Rust code, like a true Bitcoin library that creates all these transactions, ephemeral key signing for you. So I think we did a pretty nice thing, but there are a lot of costs with that. So, but over time, I guess the rates will be much lower. My prediction is that it will be below 5% reasonably soon. Once the institutional capital jumps in, it pushes the loans, the rates.
What timeline are you looking at for that?
For the loans or
No, when do you think these rates might come down when institutional adoption happens?
we are working on it day and night. Like this is our like main goal now, like to bring institutional capital in and bring rates as low as possible. So like I don't know how successful we will be, but I would bet it's gonna be soon.
Just a small clarification. In the Czech Republic, rates even at banks are, if you get credit, it's like 9%, or it can get up to there. It depends. So I tried last week just to play around, and it's like 7%. I couldn't get under 7% at a bank.
Look, the cheapest rates you have is a mortgage. And I'm just asking like why? And that's because like it's effective collateral. Like institution can use it as a collateral in an effective way. And I'm sorry?
It's not even liquid. I mean,
It's not liquid. I think it's bringing a lot of risk to the balance sheet of the banks because you have a lot of this systematic risk and you cannot liquidate the shit out of your balance sheet at the same time. Like good luck, some retail focused banks selling all your retail portfolio that, you know, all this real estate that actually end up on your balance sheet. You can do it in a snap of a finger with Bitcoin. So, but you will read about it in a book. It really like contemplates about these concepts and why we think that Bitcoin is a great collateral. Like there is a downside though, like volatility at this moment, but I think we are able to fight it somehow with the derivatives. And I'm excited about that.
Over here. Sorry. So Bitcoiners like to verify and not trust. So how is that piece of code that you just mentioned in Rust running in my browser and doing all the pre-signing? How is that? Is that verifiable? Is that open source? I assume it's not because it's your IP. How does that work?
It's gonna be open source. Like this is definitely our plan. At this moment, it's not, and I'll tell you the reason. We are still making some changes in the code. We are putting some more adjustments, and we are trying to add like excess collateral withdrawal and this kind of features. So it would not make sense to document the library when it's not ready. Like once we have it stable, we will just make it open source. What we will do reasonably soon is actually you will be able to verify that you are actually at least running the code that the binary that we want you to run, and you will be able to check the hash of the binary. It's not the full thing.
Not the full thing.
Yeah. So at this moment there is a trust component in that in the application. I mean not in a design of the escrow itself, but you need to kind of trust us that you are running the correct library and you are not running a library that sends the Bitcoin to yes. It's kind of black box at this moment, but we are working on unblackboxing it reasonably soon. And there are reasons for that. Like Mind, we've been recently in a beta. Like we've been just trying to figure out whether people like it, and there've been only people from our circles, like our friends, have been using the platform. So
just maybe confirm if this is right. The PSBTs are pre-signed for the 4 outcomes that you demonstrated, which means everything is locked in place. The duration of the loan is locked. The asset ratio is locked. I mean, if I want to, like, let's say we get close to a liquidation event, it's not possible to add more collateral, is it?
Not to this specific contract. How we do it, we put another contract, the same contract to you, and we link it together on the like Price Oracle site. So Price Oracle will know that these contracts are linked together and your liquidation price is changing. There are some other ways how to make it like, because yeah.
So there is some flexibility to these.
To add collateral, you can do it 24/7. Like you can add collateral. What we cannot do at this moment is to withdraw the collateral if it is excess. Like if the Bitcoin goes to the moon and you have 1 Bitcoin in there, you know, and it's worth a lot, and you might think like maybe I like to withdraw some part of it because it's not necessary. This is not possible at this moment.
What about the term of the loan, the length? Can that be changed?
Yeah, we support loans from 3 months, that's the shortest tenor, to 18 months.
But what I mean is, can the duration be changed?
No, because we have all these time locks on it as a security feature. So.
But you can repay earlier.
Yeah, you can repay it early.
But I can't extend, like, let's say
No.
Bitcoin goes to the moon, I can't extend the loan and get more.
No,
Yeah.
but how we think about it, I'll show you again the spider chart. We can attach another transaction that would be called like TX rollover, and it would have another set of the transaction attached to it. So there are ways how you could make kind of like a rollout of the transaction, but in the end you would end up with having more transactions. It would be more computationally heavy, and there are ways how to do it. Not all of them are elegant. You would probably need to create a lot of transactions, but it's doable.
Just a question here. How do you store the collateral? And what do you think is the biggest risk from your perspective for the lender?
It's not stored, it's on your hardware device.
Basically, how you can think about it is that you are not sending collateral to us. You are putting a little lock on.
So it's all on my side.
Kind of, yes. Like you are sending it to a multisig address.
Yeah.
So I would think that it's still on your side. You are just like making it not mobile. You cannot dispose with the assets during the lifetime of the loan. This is what you do.
It's only locked in. Yeah.
You kind of put a little lock on it, but still like I have no.
And in terms of risk to the lender, what would you say? What is the biggest risk?
Maybe one thing I didn't mention, that lender has an option to be his own liquidator. So the leak address can be actually lender's address, and I think this is the safest option. If the lender is able to operate Bitcoin, like to receive Bitcoin as a payment, then he doesn't face any risk at all. Like he just received the Bitcoin when he doesn't get paid by the borrower. Although this it's not the dream scenario for the traditional finance people, because they don't want to operate with the Bitcoin and selling it on the market. So in this case, lenders can choose another liquidator. We are offering this service at this moment, and what we propose is to have more options, because you can treat liquidator as an agent of the lender. Like this is your job. Like when you receive Bitcoin, you just sell it and give me cash, man. And so if you choose external liquidator, you have some counterparty risk towards that liquidator. If you are your own, then there is no counterparty risk.
So I have a question. If I want to use the money to buy a house, then at the end of the 18 months, I don't have the money to do a new one, to renew another 18 months. So what do I do?
One thing you could do is to post another collateral and take out the loan, like another loan. But you might face a problem that you might not have enough Bitcoin. So then the rollover would be the great thing for you to use. But this is something that is not in production yet, but we are planning to do it. At this moment, like probably this is not gonna be exactly the best product for you, because there is no way how you could, use the same collateral in a same manner and roll out the loan further. But we are working on the solution. It will make a protocol a little bit more complex, but I think it's worth it.
Okay, thank you.
When is the interest payment due?
I'm sorry, once again?
When the interest payment is due?
Everything is one payment at the maturity. As we are attesting to payments in the banking system, you don't want to attest to 12 payments, like monthly payments or something. So we said, let's keep this easy. It's gonna be like one single payment at the maturity, notional plus the interest together, and it's simple as it is.
Thank you. Just one more. Just also picking up on these questions about the end of the term operations, for example. So if I take out, is there a window of grace of some kind if I default on the immediate repayment of a loan? So you're right.
Yeah.
So where do we draw the line? If I were to take our loan out today, for example, for 3 months, that would be repayment in February, end of February. If it comes to the 1st of March and I'm on holiday, don't have access to my computer, or I've been knocked over by a car and I'm in hospital, for example, how do I prevent myself getting liquidated? Or is there a
There is some grace period that I don't recommend to
warnings?
use, because it's on the expense of your counterparty. Like, we are not in the middle. Like, we would love to give you the grace period, but it's
up to them,
maybe the
right?
investor is needing money for something else.
So is he incentivized then to say, oh, it's the 27th of February, bing, liquidate, and of course he can get double the amount of Bitcoin, right? So how does that?
Yeah, there is a grace period. Like, we are actually creating the legal agreements on back of every loan. So there is I think, 5-day period that is kind of a.
And in the event of a liquidation, does the lender get the full amount, which is 2x of their original, or do they just get the dollar equivalent or euro equivalent and the rest of the Bitcoin?
You mean the default? Because we are distinguishing like default.
Oh, sorry, yes, default.
Yeah. At this moment, yes, like the lender is getting all collateral. At this moment, what is kind of a little bit weird, but it's keeping protocol simple. Right. But what we could do, maybe back to the tech again, you can put a bunch of CETs instead of the one default transaction. You're familiar with the discrete log contracts? It means that you create a transaction that reflects a specific Bitcoin price, and you will have 1,000 of them for each price of the Bitcoin that can happen. You will have a transaction that says some part of the Bitcoin goes to the borrower, some part of the Bitcoin goes to the lender. But again, this is doable, but you need to create like 100 transactions on top. But it's not a problem until those are hundreds or thousands even. It's still doable. Like, so this is something that can be done as well, but for the sake of simplicity, we didn't implement it at this moment.
All right. Well, look forward to the next versions.
Don't forget the books, or they're gone. Okay, nothing. Sorry? More. I don't have any with me, but actually the books, or do I? They're gone, unfortunately. They will be free to download, though. That's the first thing. You will find them also on our website, but also on the Brains publishing website. I recommend their books. They are, we got some. Okay, thank you for.
I've just got one last question. What's the information you collect on the borrower side, not on the lender side, but on the
like information?
Well,
like the KYC information?
No, I mean, what's the goal of their borrowing? Is there any no-go on the use of funds here?
Like from the borrower? Like what we like, we have like couple of KYC tiers. Like if you want to borrow up to 30k euros, it's pretty smooth. You just like scan your ID. Like it's very standard thing, and we don't ask any questions.
It's just.
Huh? It's different question.
It's not about information pertaining to the borrower per se, but on the more on what does he want to do with those funds? Is it realistic that they'll be paid back in that amount of time?
We are not asking questions, but what you can use the funds for, it's maybe buy more Bitcoin. This is my favorite use case. You could actually, I tell you my story when I started to think about all this, and it was a time in my life that I wanted to go for like a real world investment. I was actually buying the industrial laundry, not money laundry, but actually industrial laundry, like with actual machines. And I needed some cash, and I was like, okay, I have some Bitcoin, maybe I can collateralize it. And there've been only bad options out there. That was the time that all these Celsiuses and BlockFis and all these have been in place, and I was like, I'm not gonna trust these bros. And we have this meme that we call this like trust me bro system, and I didn't really want to interact with the trust me bro system, and I thought we as Bitcoiners, we really can do better using the Bitcoin native technology.